Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. But I do want to talk NBA Draft Combine, okay? Now, the NBA Draft Combine does not have the buzz of the NFL Draft Combine. Nothing in basketball does compared to football. That's okay. The NFL is a monster. But at the same time, the NBA Draft Combine is very interesting because unlike the NFL Draft Combine, if you show up at the Combine, you're in the draft. There's no testing. There's no going back. There's no maybe I'm going pro, maybe I'm staying, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that. But with college basketball, it's actually the exact opposite. Is that the NBA Draft Combine, the best players really don't even do that much at the Combine. We saw it on Monday. They might do a vertical leap or a shuttle drill or whatever, but they're not playing 5-on-5. They're not doing all the stuff that everybody else is doing. And so what ends up happening is the Combine no longer is about the Reed Shepherds, the Rob Dillinghams, the Donovan Klingons of the world. It's actually about the guys that have not yet decided if they're coming back to college or not. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And a guy like Mark Sears at Alabama, a guy like Jackson Robinson, transfer from BYU, who could go to Kentucky, maybe go to Arkansas. You go on and on down the list. There are just a lot of very intriguing names at the NBA Draft Combine. So let's go ahead and get to some of the news and notes really from Monday and throughout the week. And I also want to tell you the big names that are there that could have an impact on college hoops next year. So first of all, let me start by saying this from the perspective of players who are already in the draft, or at least stuff that stood out from day one, okay? By the way, should even mention, Sunday we had the NBA lottery announcement. I think the NBA kind of knows how bad this draft is going to be because they put the lottery on Sunday afternoon on Mother's Day. I can't imagine very many people were watching, but it's interesting. The Atlanta Hawks get the number one pick, have no idea what they're going to do. There's rumors they're going to trade Trae Young. So what does that mean? I think most people think the French kid, Alex Sarr, his brother, Olivier Sarr, obviously played at Wake Forest and Kentucky. I think most people believe he's going to be the number one pick. But we'll talk about the NBA draft as we get closer. But the Combine is interesting. Couple notes from Monday afternoon. First of all, Reed Shepard athletically is testing off the charts, okay? And so Reed Shepard, we talked about him a ton. We don't need to relitigate everything about him. But he was obviously an All-American at Kentucky this year. One of the few players I think was worth the Great Osabor check that Great Osabor got today. But Reed Shepard was awesome. Goes to the NBA Combine, and he's testing off the charts. Saw that he had a 42-inch vertical leap, which was the highest vert of anybody at the Combine. His shooting has been insane in kind of one-on-one workouts. Now, I don't even know if they've started 5-on-5 yet. He will not be participating in that. But this is a kid. I still wonder if he ends up being a top 5 pick. I certainly think he's going to be a top 10 pick, but he was really about as good as you could have been. Again, he's not going to compete in super high level stuff. He doesn't have to, bluntly. But his testing was off the chart. I thought he was awesome. Thought it was also interesting. Alex Karaban from UConn. He's one of those players that really right now we're trying to figure out, is he going to stay or go? He's UConn's 5th starter. The 4 other starters have all declared for the draft and are staying in. Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer out of eligibility. Donovan Clingan and Steph Castle have declared with agents they're not coming back, okay? But Alex Karaban is the one that as of right now might actually be coming back, but based on what he did earlier in the day, I don't know if UConn fans should feel very good about the idea of seeing him play college basketball next year. Alex Karaban, according to Jonathan Givony from ESPN, who is there, I saw him tweet this out at about, let's see here, it was probably about 4:30 Eastern time. He said Alex Karaban caught fire in the three-point shooting drill, hitting 14 straight threes, 21 of 25 overall, by far the best figure at the NBA Draft Combine, also tops off in the dribble shooting. And I bring it up because this is a guy, listen, I believe in my heart of hearts that he is going to end up staying in the draft. I know UConn fans are going to be mad at me for saying that, but he's 6'10". He's a better athlete than people give him credit for. The only reason he didn't put up monster stats for UConn this year is because the team was really good and they had a lot of options. So he's shooting the crap out of the ball. He's 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is. I think I said 6'10". He's probably closer to 6'8", 6'9". Got great positional size, great athleticism, shooting the crap out of the ball. And I just don't think you see many guys that are 6'8", 6'9" who can shoot the way that he can. So my hunch is that realistically, I would guess he's probably going to stay in this NBA draft. We'll see. Dan Hurley's been pretty adamant that as of right now, if he's a first-round pick, he will and should stay. If he's projected as a second-round pick, come back. UConn will take care of him in NIL and be the star of next year's team, be a first-rounder. Worth noting, I think I have UConn at number 3 or number 4 in my way too early top 25. If Karaban stays in the draft, I think it's hard to keep UConn in that top 5. I believe in Dan Hurley, but they would be replacing all 5 starters off a national championship team. Couple other players who are at the combine. Let's talk about guys that could return to college that I just want to keep an eye on. And we'll talk about the guys that are committed to a certain school, but then also guys that could still be in the portal and make a decision. In terms of the guys that are still committed and still, we know where they're going to come back to college if they come back. Caleb Love is at the combine. Obviously, the Arizona guard, he has the 5th year of COVID eligibility. And what's interesting was, I was around Arizona a lot during the month of March. I was with them at the Pac-12 tournament. I was with them at the NCAA tournament in Los Angeles. I don't think there was real thought that Caleb Love was going to return at all to college basketball. But if he's going to be a second-round pick, he'll make NIL money. He'll be a star at Arizona. And remember, Arizona's going to the Big 12 next year. And so in my opinion, if he's probably not trending to be like a first-round pick, I think there's a very good chance he could come back. And I don't think he is going to trend to be a first-round pick. Now, the interesting thing there for Arizona, they have a deep freshman class. There is a couple players, Josan Sanan, who was a 5-star reclassified kid. I've heard my buddy Mike Luke, who covers Arizona, say that if Caleb Love comes back, he thinks there could be some shakeup in that recruiting class. So now does a 5-star recruit become available in mid to late May if Caleb Love comes back? So there's a lot to discuss. That's very interesting. Obviously, the other big name besides Karaban, besides Caleb Love, Mark Sears at Alabama. Listen, I've said it consistently. I think if Mark Sears comes back, Alabama is my number 1 team in the country next year. Elite guard, not great size, not great this, not great that, but man, can he shoot the crap out of the ball. It was interesting talking to the UConn guys at the Final Four, the players after the game. They were like, good Lord, was that kid good? That was the best guard that we saw all year. So bring it up. If he comes back, I think Alabama has a case for the number 1 team. If he does not come back, I still think they're good, but I don't think you can make the argument that they're number 1. Their point guard probably becomes Aiden Holloway at that point. Of course, the transfer from Auburn, who I think right now going into next year would probably be better as a backup than he would be as a starter. But that is an interesting name to follow. Also, Johnny Furphy, the kid from Kansas. I think everybody thinks he's going pro, but he has not technically officially left his name in the draft. That is an interesting name to watch. And then I think the other interesting names, give me a second here. Let me grab some water really quick. Interesting names who could come back, but are in the portal. Now, this is where it gets interesting. These are players that could return to college basketball. Will they, if they don't have a good performance, do they end up coming back? First of all, Chaz Lanier. We talked about him on Friday's show. He is the guard from North Florida, averaged like 21 points per game. What was interesting, keen Kentucky fans noticed that Mark Pope was at the combine and was kind of front and center for all his games, basically saying, hey, if you come back to college, we really want you to come play college basketball for us next year. So Mark Pope was at the combine watching Chaz Lanier. I would put Kentucky as a favorite right now, right alongside Tennessee, but I'd probably make them the favorite if he comes back. Jackson Robinson is at the combine. He, of course, began his career at A&M, played at Arkansas, spent the last 2 years at BYU. In my opinion, I do think he probably wants to stay in the NBA draft. I think if he was really keen on coming back to college, he just would have done it by now. He's not going to be a first-round pick. Could have followed Mark Pope, could have made a lot of money. So the fact that he's going through this process, I think to me probably means that he wants to stay in. He's looking for any type of assurance. And if he does, obviously that has big impact on college basketball. If he does come back, I do think that Kentucky should be deemed the favorite. Now, one of the questions that we got, apparently Arkansas behind the scenes is trying to make a little push for him. I have not heard much about that, but I think it's obviously interesting. He played for a year at Arkansas under Eric Musselman. It did not work out well. But at the same time, I would still think Kentucky is a favorite there. A couple other names, Jalen Wells is a name to know. 6'8", played at Washington State last year. I think he's really good. Don't know what his intentions are, but he is in the transfer portal right now. I think he becomes one of probably the 10 best players to enter the portal if he returns to college hoops. And then obviously a guy that we have talked about quite a bit, Coleman Hawkins. Remember, Coleman Hawkins is the player from Illinois who entered the portal, decided to test the NBA draft waters. Another one, I think he wants to stay in the draft, but as we've discussed quite a bit, I think he's more keen on coming back to college basketball than maybe I thought. Worth noting, he actually graduated from Illinois on Sunday. Saw some pictures with him and Brad Underwood. Congrats to Coleman Hawkins on being a college graduate. If he comes back, I think that becomes like a Louisville, North Carolina type recruitment. I don't think he's coming back to play at Illinois.